We cross paths with people in our lives every day. For some people, we are tied to them as parents, siblings, and different aspects within our family grouping. We at times think that people in our lives and the people that cross our paths are random occurrences. However, believe it or not, they're not so random. When we go into the box of memories inside our mind, we often think about the people that meant something to us. The grandmother that taught us the wisdom in her eyes in the moment of that heart to heart conversation. It could have been that family friend, or that family member or stranger that you had met that took you under their wing and steered you away from a life of trouble. Or the friend where you quickly became family to each other, where you experienced everything together and grew together. These memories are easy to connect to. They are easy because they are positive influences in our lives, positive memories that mean so much to each of us. It's something that we hold on to, especially when we need that memory to reflect on, especially if those special people are no longer in our lives. Yet, what we don't think about is the people that are in our lives currently, that crossed our paths, or we were born in the family grouping in our current reality that hurt us, that made us feel less than, or showed us so much negativity in our lives. We don't think about the purpose and why they are in our lives, because to think about it brings us pain, it brings us anguish, it brings us regret. We don't think about the lessons that they are to teach us by the experiences they put us through. We become so paralyzed by the emotions and the effects that these people had on us that we often ignore what we are to learn, why they even crossed our journey, what wisdom we were to learn within that dark experience. We don't think about these things because in our mind, we want to forget what hurts us rather than to understand it. The definition of a karmic relationship can be a relationship full of turbulence. Karmic relationships are related to karma in a sense because they are the relationships that we need in our lives to grow. Karmic relationships evolve out of unresolved issues in our past life, and at times to resolve those unresolved issues in this life. We may not think that they are important to us, but on the contrary, to what we believe they are. They help us grow, to discover our strength, our own inner power, and to teach us wisdom and to find our own faith in something bigger than ourselves. Unfortunately, yet fortunately, we had to learn this in a harsh way, so we don't forget. So we are forced to know who we are and the power that we have within. To survive these experiences is one thing, but then when we have to find it within ourselves to release that emotional pain we suffered and to find forgiveness, which leads us to find the wisdom we seek within. Hi guys, hi, and welcome back to Vibe Talks. I know it's been a while since I made a video, so there's a video that I wanted, or a subject matter that I wanted to cover. It's about karmic relationships, and I'm sure with my intro that you have a good idea what karmic relationships are about. And what I'm going to be talking about is more in depth of what karmic relationships are about, even though they're lessons that we have learned in our life, harsh lessons actually, but it's what we need to see in the perspective of that is what comes from that. What comes when we come out of the other end of that karmic relationship that we had experienced. And oftentimes, what comes from that person is strength. What comes from that person is wisdom. And we actually start to realize how brave we truly are as a new person winds up being birthed from at the other end of that experience. So what is karmic relationships? We often hear of relationships that people talk about, such as, twin flames, soulmates, the very relationships that drives the sales of of romance novels. Yet, the relationships that people rather not talk about are often avoided in conversation, and those are the ones that are often experienced. Those type of relationships are the karmic ones that we experience in our romantic life, and even the family karmic relationships that we wind up being born into. Whereas children, where oftentimes we wind up witnessing and experiencing the reality of the karmic relationships of a parent, which is enduring that their karmic relationship in their reality. You see, regardless which ones of these that you had experienced, they are still pathways that we wind up traveling, and oftentimes not knowing the reason we travel them. We are reeled in the moment of that experience and asking the questions of why. It's not just knowing the facts so that we can avoid these relationships. Sure, I mean that helps for to try to avoid those, learn how to avoid those relationships for those that haven't traveled that path yet. However, what I'm wondering is, what about those that have traveled those paths, and where they're trying to understand the meaning of it all? They start to ask the questions of, why is this happening to them? Why were they so blind to not see it coming? The fact is that we weren't meant to see it coming, because as harsh as the reality was for most of us who have traveled this dark path, it winded up teaching us. It taught many of us how to be strong enough, how to be brave enough to wind up leaving and to wind up standing firmly strong to our beliefs, to break that cycle, therefore to break away from that karmic relationship and its unrelenting lessons, because we had finally learned what it was to teach us. You see, avoiding karmic relationships is one thing, but to see these types of relationships as well as the family ones under the scope of a much deeper perspective gives us a deeper sense of understanding for those that seek it. If anything, know this. First off, you must understand that you're not alone. And myself included, we have experienced these dark paths. These are experiences, no matter how tough and how painful and how enduring that they are, that we still wind up learning something from them. So let's start with the obvious one first. The one where most of us have experienced but don't really like to talk about. Understand this. Relationships wind up testing us and our understanding of what love is. So, what is love? What do we want in love? Is it that we want love to not be alone or to have a lifelong companion? It's to test us in what we want in love and what we don't want. So, how can we know what we want in love if we don't know what we truly want or don't want? You see, karmic relationships are just in the name, karma, which means lessons. Lessons that we haven't learned yet, which could be lessons that are embedded within the trenches of our past lives, which some people wind up going to spiritual advisors to find out, and to take a peek in the Akashic records to find out what was in our past and the correlation between what had happened then and what is happening in our current reality now. Or they may karmic relationships may cross our path in this reality due to what we need to learn from this reality. Or for some people, they rather not believe in any of it, and they feel that they're trapped in a bad situation due to their own impaired judgment, blaming themselves when it's not their fault at all. You see, either way, it could be lessons you need to learn in this life to grow and evolve as a person, such as how to be strong, brave, and even stand up for yourself when you never had before. You see, these relationships not only teach us, but they can wind up pointing us in the right direction after we had learned them, which will only evolve us further to become more conscious of our decisions based upon how it affects us, to make us stronger individuals, and to truly understand our own strength and bravery. Sometimes these karmic relationships points us to the right direction, and sometimes to the right person, like it had one of my good friends. Sometimes we don't recognize the beauty of others unless we had experienced the ugliness through the experiences that we had endured. As I have said, it's not just the ones in our romantic relationships that we learn from. It's also the lessons from the family that we are born to that evolve us by the harsh experiences we had endured. Allow to make it clear. Not all lessons we learn by harsh experiences are because we did something bad. Something sometimes it winds up becoming something that helps us evolve us as souls to be stronger or to stand up for ourselves and what we believe. And at times these are lessons that have to bring us out, that bring our true selves out from within us. And unfortunately for some of us, like myself included, we've had our backs against the wall to find strength inside of us. And for me, it was because I was too stubborn to learn from to learn my lessons any other way. So a mild experience was not to my benefit. So with the romantic, or rather not so romantic, karmic relationships, it can feel all consuming and magnetic, which are characterized by the high of highs and low of lows. You see, due to the intense feelings that people often mistake karmic relationships for soulmates or twin flames, it's because those relationships are not meant to be long lived, but at times they unfortunately can be because the person finds themselves trapped, and sometimes they wind up marrying their karmic relationship due to codependency that these relationships oftentimes create. You may have had these relationships where they had begun like a whirlwind, yet ended just as quickly as it started. These karmic relationships can feel so intoxicating in the early stages where you feel comfortable instantly with that person. So, no more blaming yourself that you should have seen it coming, because more times than not, you don't see it coming. In this moment, you feel sweat from your feet, that you're thinking to yourself that you finally found the one that you've been looking for. Same likes, dislikes, you're finishing each other's sentences, and you can't be without each other. There's a whole genre of songs based upon love happening this way. Then suddenly, after the flames have fade between you both, you wind up discovering how your intense relationship became not so healthy at all, especially if it doesn't last, and especially if it does last in the long term, which these relationships can be emotionally exhausting or even in many cases abusive. You see, these relationships can carry lots of drama and emotions, where that instant connection that brought you and your partner together can feel like it's tearing you apart. Yet, these relationships can create codependency, where it makes it nearly difficult to walk away from it, especially if you both have children and both have children involved. The person who is in the karmic relationship depends on you to take out their emotions on, because you have been so conditioned to take what he or she is lashing out. And the partner is codependent to the karmic relationship to not be alone, even if it's toxic. So oftentimes that the partner pleases their other partner to keep the peace, even if it means foregoing one's own natural instincts to leave. You see, in a healthy relationship, partners lift each other up and make each other better. In karmic relationships, this is not what happens. The worst often comes out in people. This is because people become fearful of losing what they have, or fearful of the high of their relationship turning into the low, where they're waiting for the shoe to drop. And these relationships can carry baggage of jealousy, possessiveness, in addition to other toxic behaviors. Karmic relationships are completely exhausting, and emotionally, mentally, and even physically. We oftentimes discount how difficult it is to be in a constant state of drama, where disagreements and fear of the relationship will end, or at times afraid to even leave. You see, the uneasiness and the vitality associated with these karmic relationships can take a toll on one person's emotions, mental, and physical health. That gathering the strength to leave can feel impossible. I'm here to tell you it's not. The person who spent the time to break your spirit had created that illusion to prevent you from walking away. Is it hard to walk away? Yeah, absolutely. So much that the fear of the unknown is scarier than the toxic relationship you're experiencing. Yet sometimes we have to gather the courage inside and say enough is enough. Many individuals have done it, like myself, but there are so many others who have not found that strength nor courage and are still trapped in their karmic relationship experience, afraid to be judged by the person they love for being involved in the relationship in the first place, or sometimes people have a lack of support to leave. So they stay in it constantly trying to make it work until the moment someone gets hurt. The reason people stay in these relationships is the fact that these relationships, the person knows what to expect in the behavior of their partner. So they feel that they can keep the partner's behavior under control, feeling ashamed that they had found themselves in such a relationship, which at times leaves the person to say nothing to friends and family about it, or have had that insensitive family member or a friend who had told them to just leave when it's not even that simple, not to the person who's experiencing it. Sometimes leaping to the unknown is even more traumatizing, being alone and not knowing where to go, or have their basic needs met to even get away. Your self-esteem ripped and stripped from you due to how that person made you feel, or what they had said that made you feel so scared and ashamed to reach out to any type of help. Maybe they made you feel that your family and friends are all on their side and that you have no one. As sometimes a person with a narcissistic personality can set the illusion that everyone is on their side and you're isolated and alone. This is indeed a nightmare situation. Feeling trapped and alone doesn't make the situation seem possible to leave. The truth is, beneath this nightmare, that you're not alone, and many have experienced such situations. I've had friends who broke away from these relationships and discovered the strength within themselves. They realized while breaking free that they weren't alone and that they had crossed paths with other people who had done the same thing and broke free from their own nightmare. If you're the one dealing with a karmic relationship right now, know this: you are strong, you are brave, and you can break free. You see, let me tell you a little personal story about myself. Years ago, I had a karmic relationship when I lived in Florida. And this is a state that I had no family, no friends, as most of my friends lived up north, 5 states away. I was isolated, I was trapped, and I was alone. When I finally had enough, I found bravery and courage. Was it easy? No. What happened was that my mind was constantly playing the game of the what if game. I had to think on my feet, be sneaky, shipping my belongings through FedEx to a trusted friend up north. When what I was doing was discovered, I thought I was in for it. As fear had crept in my mind and emotions, it was then that the person I was with, their mother had winded up getting involved and gave me a safe route to go home up north. With a flight and no more than $20 in my pocket, with my son at hand, I found myself a safe passage and broke free from that karmic relationship. So, what I'm telling you is that you're not alone. Many people like myself understand completely. What my experience taught me was that I was stronger than I gave myself credit for. I was brave. If I hadn't have felt any of that or believed any of that, I probably wouldn't have gone through with leaving my own nightmare. And from that reality, I discovered who I truly was. And it wasn't that scared 26-year-old. I had to heal, and I had a lot to heal from. My nightmare might have ended, but the healing had to take its place. And with a supportive network of friends, I made it through that discovery. What I wanted, what I didn't want. I had to learn to love myself before I could love anyone else again. I had to be strong for my son and stand firm to my beliefs. And from that nightmare, I had to learn so much and evolve to be the person I am today. And believe it or not, you can too. We all can by looking deeper within. We have to believe in ourselves again and discover the person that we are. We have to reach down deep inside and acknowledge the strength and the bravery and the love that we have inside. And from the shadows of that karmic relationship, light does shine once again. But instead, we wind up birthing a new self, a stronger soul with the wisdom from what we had endured. This is the truth behind karmic relationships. It's not all dark and gloomy. Yes, the experiences that we experience is painful and it can seem impossible to get through. But once you get through it, a new self evolves from you. It evolves from within. The strength that you did not think that you ever had comes out. The bravery, the courage, and the wisdom. But see, you don't wind up discovering that until after you heal. The healing process is the most important part when you come through a karmic relationship. That's when you start to have self-discovery of who you truly are. And you know what you want, you know what you don't want. And what emerges from that is a new you, the stronger you, the braver you, and the you who have courage. So that, my friends, is the truth about karmic relationships. Thank you for coming to Vibe Talks, and I'll see you on the next video.